What is good, people? Welcome back to another video on 8 Count. In today's video we have our return of UFC fight picks, this time for UFC 286, Edwards versus Usman 3. It's going down in London on Saturday night and it's an absolute banger of a card. I remember Dana White saying that he wanted to bring a stacked sort of card back to the UK for a pay-per-view, and I think he's done it this time. The prelims are stacked, the early prelims are stacked. I can't wait for this fight night. Before we get into my picks, be sure to leave yours in the comment section down below. Leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed the video, and let's get straight into it, guys. Kicking things off with Leon Edwards versus Kamaru Usman 3, and I'm actually having trouble picking this fight personally. The odds this time out have Kamaru Usman a -230 favourite and Leon Edwards a +195 underdog. Personally, I think that's probably fair. I think you look at the resume of Usman and what he was able to kind of do throughout his career recently, the ease in which he was taking people out after the Woodley fight, in which he was able to dominate the former champ. Just went on a run of kicking people's asses, and you know, Gilbert Burns is the only contender he hasn't done it to twice. The Edwards fight was definitely a fight which was going in his favour. I think round one, Edwards had a really good round, in all fairness to him, able to get the takedown from the trip and kind of dominate with ground control, you know, having success there, which I thought a lot of people didn't see coming, but you know, Edwards is an underrated grappler. And then he was able to take rounds 3, 4, and 2 pretty easily. Round 5, he was on his way coasting to a victory, and the head kick came up and knocked him the fuck out. And for Edwards, I mean, what a win that was. I mean, you look at his resume, he's had a lot of bad luck, in all honesty, especially with the Bellow Muhammad fight. I would like to see them run it back in the future, potentially. But the Diaz fight, took his foot off the pedal, got rocked. And he's had some banging wins before that as well. But for me, I like Edwards in this main event. I think you look at the questions of Edwards, and last time out, he was able to have success in sort of spurts here and there, in which was a very flat performance from him and very unlike him, in my opinion. I think he's a lot better than he showed that night, and he was still able to get the win with the head kick. I think this time out, it's going to be a close fight, but I think a lot of questions fall on Kamaru Usman. You know, how has he recovered from the knockout? What's he like now in striking range? Because obviously his striking was improving, and it was improving with the fundamentals. I thought his jab was getting really, really good. You know, but this time out, is he going to be a little bit gun shy? You know, is it going to affect his performance in any way? I think potentially we might see that earlier on in the fight. You know, he's going to have his chin sort of tested so that he knows he can go, you know, deeper into his sort of well of striking, in my opinion, anyway. Other questions I have is, how is the right hand? I think that was the hand that he had surgery on recently. There's a lot of talk about earlier on in the year, is this fight even going to happen because of that injury? There was a lot of talks of potentially Jorge Masvidal stepping in to, you know, have that grudge match with Leon Edwards. But, you know, the fight's happening now. Questions around how Usman's going to perform lead me to my pick, which is Leon Edwards. I'm going to go with Leon Edwards, get a win here by decision. I think it's going to be a tough fight. I think both men are going to be tested, but I just see Edwards turning up a bit more. You know, after, you know, he did have success early in the last fight, he wasn't able to capitalize on it. I think this time he will. I think he's probably going to take the fight 3-2. I could see Usman definitely landing some takedowns, but is Edwards going to be able to scramble into positions in which, you know, he can have dominant control? We're going to have to wait and see, but I think it's going to be a good fight. In the co-main event, this is an absolute banger of a fight. Justin Gaethje versus Rafael Fiziev. Gaethje, I mean, he's fought the absolute who's who in his career. If you name him in the lightweight division, he's took them on. Barboza, Cerrone, Ferguson, Nurmagomedov, Chandler, Oliveira. Recently, though, I've been a little bit disappointed with some of Gaethje's performances. You know, there's a lot of rumours about the way he trains and how he doesn't really do too much grappling, and you know, it's kind of on show, especially against the likes of Nurmagomedov, who he actually had a lot of success against using some of those low calf kicks, and Oliveira, in which he had success again getting the drop early, but once again finished quite early on in those fights by submission. And it's disappointing to see. I'd love to see him work on that, and if he has, you know, it's not really going to be shown in this fight anyway, but what is going to be shown is his striking pedigree. In my opinion, he's going up against one of the best strikers in the lightweight division. I think you look at the run he's been on since joining UFC, a lot of his, fights have aged like wine. The Jacasey one looks even better now. He's able to dominate him on the feet. I think Jacasey's looked a lot better since that fight. I think he's overall sort of improved himself as a whole, which is great to see. Moicano, he got a TKO win over in the first round, which is extremely impressive. Moicano, an extremely tough customer. Green, that win was close, but it was a good win nevertheless. Just striking with Green, being able to have that success against him, very impressive. The Riddell fight and the Dos Anjos win, very, very good. I mean, the question marks in this sort of fight is Gaethje going to be able to get him into the ranges that he wants to? Can he keep Fiziev at a very sort of close distance? Can he land the leg kicks? And can he get off with the hands? I just don't believe he can. I think, yes, there may be moments in which Fiziev sort of fatigues a bit, because I think that has been shown in a few of his fights that, he can get a little bit tired. But I don't think it's going to happen until late, and unless Gaethje can get a finish late on, I don't think he's going to win this fight. I think at range, Fiziev or Fiziev, however you pronounce it, he's going to have a lot of success. I think landing kicks to the body earlier on in the fight is going to, end up leaving the head open for a couple of head kicks, and I think Gaethje's tough enough to kind of hang in there with him. I don't think he's good enough to get a win. So I'm going to go with Rafael Fiziev, who is actually a slight favourite, minus 230 to 195, the exact same as the main event. Next up, we have the return of Gunnar Nelson versus Bryan Barberena. Bam Bam was a guy who kind of rose to fame, I guess, with the Sage Northcutt win kind of early on in Sage Northcutt's run inside the UFC. Since then, he's kind of been one of these guys who has been, I guess you could say, a prelim merchant. He's fought a lot of tough guys, got some really good wins, but as of late, went on that Legends ass whooping tour. He took out Matt Brown by decision, sorry. He's able to get the finish over Robbie Lawler, but last time out, he was submitted by fucking hell, Rafael Dos Anjos, man, what a guy. But I think that's kind of the level he's at. I think he's at a level where if you give him someone who's a bit over the hill, he used to be great, he's going to put on a performance against them. If you give him someone outside the top 15, I think he can handle them. I think he's good enough to be competitive in those fights. But I think if you put him up against anyone elite, he's going to have trouble. Now, Gunnar Nelson, the question is he elite? I mean, earlier on in his career, you can make the question that he was, you can make the answer that he was, but as of late, it just hasn't been very active inside the octagon, and performances have dipped. Last time out, he got a win against Sato in March of 2022. I think that was the last UK card, if I'm not mistaken. But for me, I think if he is on his game, he's far and away good enough to beat Barberena. I think on the feet, he's going to want to use that style of keeping at range, using that karate background. And if he can get some takedowns, I think he is going to have success against Barberena in top positions. I think the ground game of Gunnar Nelson is probably his strongest point, and I think he's going to use it in this fight. I do believe he can get a submission finish here. So I'm going to go Gunnar Nelson. Jennifer Maia versus Casey O'Neill. Looking at Maia, obviously she went very close with Shevchenko not too long ago. Kind of made Shevchenko look human for the first time, able to land some takedowns of her own. Since then, it's been kind of a mixed bag, right? She was able to get the win against Jessica Ai, which was expected, but then lost to Chookagian and Foro. Since then, she has got the win against Moroz, but those two fights are the fights which I'm judging her on. Obviously Faro and Chookagian are two girls who are at the top end of the division. And Chookagian is the fighter who I use at 125 on the women's side as my sort of measuring stick. If you beat her, you're good enough to go and have a shot at the title. You might not win, but you're good enough, especially in that Shevchenko era, which was so dominant. But if you lose against her, you're not. Only sort of elite fighters at 125 seem to beat Chookagian. She's a very tough test, very good on the feet. And Maia wasn't able to do it. I think, she's probably going to have problems in this fight. She is an underdog for a reason, in my opinion. I think Casey O'Neill on the feet is the much better fighter of the two. just a little bit more calmer and poised, I think, in her striking. On the ground, yes, Maya's probably going to have an advantage there, but can she get it there? I don't think so. I think Casey O'Neill's going to put an absolute pace on her and make her work for every second of this fight. I'm going to go with Casey O'Neill, potentially a TKO in here, but I'm going to go with a decision. We kick off the main card with this middleweight bout, which arguably could be, should be higher up on the card. But, to open the main card, I guess you could say it's pretty banging. Vettori versus Roman Dolidze. Vettori, I think he's coming off a loss, right? Yes, coming off the loss to Whitaker. But before that, obviously got that really impressive win against a Paulo Costa who did not want to cut weight. For me, I think Vettori's up there in the middleweight division. I think he's a guy who can beat a lot of top-level guys. And honestly, he might be one of the worst matchups for the current champ in Pereira. But Roman Dolidze is a weird matchup for him, right? I think on the feet, Dolidze has power and, definitely finishing ability. And I'd say overall his striking is a lot better than Vettori's. And on the ground, he's an absolute nightmare when it comes to submission threats. The only question I have is, can he stop the takedowns of Vettori? And can he get back up to his feet even if he is? Obviously he's going to have that submission threat, but I don't know if it's worth bothering going for it on Vettori. I think the sort of top pressure that he has, it's going to be difficult to really pull off a submission on him. I think his best look would be if he is taken down using submissions to get back to his feet, where I think he will have a lot of success here. I could definitely see this fight being boring for some reason, but I'm going to go with a Dolidze win. But yeah, Vettori's definitely one of the top guys in the division, so this would be a super impressive win. Move on to the prelims. Going to go quickly through some of these. Jack Shaw moving up to featherweight. Obviously, last time out, lost against Ricky Simone, which was kind of a surprise, man. Jack Shaw's one of those guys who I rate really highly. Obviously, representing Wales, big up. And, this time out, he's coming up against Marquand and Amirkhani. Another guy's going to look to get a takedown on him. I just think Jack Shaw's too good. Obviously, he's going to be a bit smaller framed here at featherweight, but I think it's going to be the same sort of tools which are going to lead him to victory. I think that jab is one of the best inside of the MMA sort of circuit right now. The way he uses it to set up not only other strikes but takedowns as well. I think Amirkhani's in for one. Obviously, last time out, he got a huge win, which was kind of win or go home, right? But he got it done against the other English wrestler. What's his name? I see his face, but we'll move on. Mike something, I believe. But yeah, this time I expect Jack Shaw to get it done however he wants. I think on the feet he's good enough to maybe get a finish against Amirkhani. I think it might be difficult because of Amirkhani's constant look to get this fight to the floor. I think even on the floor, Jack Shaw, if he can get top position, is good enough to win this one. Omar Moraes is the fight I'm going to take in the fight after that. I just really rate his striking. Not too sure on Chris Duncan, but I know Omar Moreles, and I rate him a lot. So yeah, I'm going to go Morales. Sam Patterson, not too sure about. Mohamed Makayev, both starting up the proper prelims against Jaleh Filo. Yeah, Makayev's a problem. I know he kind of turned people the wrong way with his last performance, but this guy's an absolute problem at flyweight. I believe if he isn't a flyweight champion in his career, he will be a bantamweight one if he decides to move up. I think this guy's a problem. I think he at least fights for a title one day, 100%. So I'm going to go with Makayev, and once again, however he wants. His wrestling's so dynamic, and on the feet, he's super dangerous. Leroy Murphy, we're going to go with in the featherweight bout, which is the headliner for the early prelims. I like him to get it done there. I like Dusko. I think he's decent. I'm going to go with Dusko here. Jake Hadley and Ludovic Klein against Jai Herbert. That's a good fight. That's a real tough one. I think Jai Herbert's has had real sort of brilliant moments inside the octagon, but just hasn't really been able to pull it all together for the finishes and stuff that he wants. But Ludovic Klein, man, he's a problem as well. I'm gonna go with Klein here. I do like him. I like his style. I think he's very entertaining. He's definitely a good product to kind of bank on. So guys, there are my UFC picks. Tried to get through it pretty quickly for you guys, you know, just under 15 minutes, so not too bad. Thank you for all the support on the recent video, guys. Really appreciate it. If you're new to the channel, be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll be back again some point this week with potentially an undisputed video. I know I've got to get my boxing preview out for Tank versus Garcia. That's going to be a hell of a fight. But yes, guys, thank you. We will be back soon, and take care until then. Peace out.